There's lots of different emotions circulating in our household this Lent. On the one hand, for our daughter, great excitement as plans for the future open up. Though also, I might know, coupled with some trepidation about impending exams. On the other hand, a slight sense perhaps of sadness for her soon-to-be empty nester parents. The acknowledgement of some of the different emotions surrounding parenthood in our gospel reading today, therefore, struck a particular chord with me this year. In the space of 3 short verses, we move from amazement to the experience of blessing, bemusement, and hopefulness, but ending with a recognition of deep pain. I'm grateful for these verses, not only though because they connect with something of my own experience, but also because they don't shy away from some of the pain of family life. This feels particularly appropriate perhaps to acknowledge on Mothering Sunday, a day which can be full of very mixed emotions. Depending maybe on our experiences of family life, of parenting or being parented, especially if things haven't turned out as we might have hoped. So I've been reflecting on those words, and a sword will pierce your own soul too, and considering how Mary may have felt as she heard them, especially bearing in mind that Jesus wasn't even quite 6 weeks old at that point in time, when she might more naturally perhaps have been looking ahead with excitement and expectation. Surely these words may have felt especially difficult to hear. But as we look more closely, I think it reflects something of the broader context of our readings, both from Exodus and Luke. Both of these are set within days of darkness for God's people. In Exodus, God's people are in Egypt enslaved and their lives are filled with hardship. And if that isn't enough to bear, they're then threatened with nothing less than genocide at the hand of Pharaoh. The context of the gospel reading is of course different, though Anna's story tells us that she and her people were also longing for the redemption of Israel in an age when suffering had become a way of life. Yet, in both of these dark times, in the face of disaster, we see that hope emerges. Light and love come, but through unexpected means and unexpected people. And particularly in these stories, I note, through the actions of women. God's providential care is expressed through acts of resistance of the brave and faithful Hebrew midwives, Shiphrah and Puah. Indeed, it seems significant to me that their names are mentioned, perhaps reflecting the role they played. Care, which is also seen in the act of resolute trust of Moses' mother, Jochebed, in the resourcefulness of his sister Miriam, and finally in the actions of Pharaoh's daughter, who refuses to carry out the command of her father. It's a story where the apparently weak and powerless overcome the strong and mighty. A story which I hope may encourage us too. Whatever dark days we or those we love may be facing, either individually or as God's people together, I wonder how their story might convey hope. A hope that God is present and active, demonstrating care and love through unexpected means or maybe unexpected people. It is also, I believe, a call to trust that all will be well, even if things look dire, just as it was for the Israelites. Though of course this may require persistent and patient faith to see. But I also think that these stories are not just about love and care on the big picture canvas of God's love and hope for a nation, but also paints a more detailed and intimate sketch of love that God shows for individuals. That's why the mention of names feels so significant. These are, after all, the stories of real human families, such as Jochebed and Moses, of one mother's act of love demonstrated in risking her son to the water and trusting into God's care. A love that pierces souls but also quietly trusts. And as I've reflected on this Mothering Sunday, on the nature of the loving care to which Moses is entrusted, I've had the opening words of today's post-communion prayer particularly in mind. It starts like this. Loving God, as a mother feeds her children at the breast, you feed us in this sacrament with the food and drink of eternal life. Metaphors of God as mother are peppered throughout the scriptures. One of my personal favourites is the image of a hen who gathers her brood under her wing. It's there in Luke 13. I know that for some of us these ideas may feel challenging. However, for me, I find that a breadth of images and metaphors for God alongside that of God as Father expands my understanding and provides new points of connection. And as I read of the actions and thoughts of Mary and Jochebed, I see something of how God cares and loves us, particularly in taking risks and entrusting us to one another. Jochebed chooses to let go so that Moses may have life, a truly sacrificial and indeed risky act. Although I also note how she's watching on. It might have, in that moment, have felt safer to have held on to him, and yet how different the outcome might have been if she had. So, too, I marvel at the ways in which God, albeit in different ways, takes risks in allowing us to be free to follow our own path in life, wherever that might take us, and yet still watches over us. As in something of Jochebed's and Mary's actions, I therefore catch new glimpses of God's love, reflecting some of the truest and best experiences of being mothered and of mothering. Yet also, it gives a pattern to that mothering in return, a pattern we are called to follow. Now that's certainly a challenge to me as another one of our children leaves home. Our readings today are very real. They're real in acknowledging the different emotions of parenthood, which, as I said, feels particularly important on this Mothering Sunday. They don't fight shy of the possibility of pain alongside joy, and of real risk in the midst of unfolding plans where we may not know how things will turn out. But they do so with hope. Light and love will come, both for the people of God as a whole, but also for individuals deeply loved and cherished by God. It may be through unexpected means or unexpected people, but at the same time can lead us into a deeper understanding of our mothering God, who longs that we may also know the very fullness of life.